Hello, everybody. Today we're going to be taking a look at a scenario where Russia from AdizzPro's WICSO comes into the modern day. Now, Russia is back, and they're back in this little area. Of course, they don't have all their land that they have over here, as this is a recently formed thing that nobody really took an eye on. Anyways, we have reached our goal of 600 subscribers before the end of the month. And for August, my goals are to reach 800 subscribers before September 1st. That's my goal. If we could get higher than that, that's also great. But I think at a 700 or 800 subs, I might release a Discord server. In fact, yeah, I'm gonna do that for 700 subs. At 700 subs, I will probably release a Discord server. I'm gonna have to get it ready now. But anyways, let's go ahead and start today's video. Now, Russia is just plopped into the modern day. They don't really have anything to do. And they didn't really take a majority of any country. I mean, obviously they took a good portion of Russia. They took pretty much a lot of the important areas of Russia, and they also took some areas of Belarus, and then like small portions of other countries, like I think small portions of Latvia, small portions of Estonia, and small portions of Ukraine. So it's really just Russia that gets affected by this, and I guess Belarus. But anyways, yeah. So we can look at major cities. This is the actual cities map. They have about 6 major cities. Obviously, they have like more than that. They probably have some like more up here. But this is just the majorest of major cities. Anyways, let's go ahead and start today's episode with the invasion of Belarus. Now, obviously, this Russian state is stronger than Belarus, and I would argue that this Russian state is probably the top, like maybe 20 or 15 countries in the world. And now I guess the old Russia is probably like around 20 or 25, as they only really have these Caucasian lands, these lands bordering Ukraine, and then maybe like some stuff over here, and then stuff like all across this border and stuff down here. But this country is not like it's not gonna like yeah. This Russian country is probably not gonna survive, but this one probably is. But anyways, let's go ahead and look at the invasion. So we can see that Russia starts invading from these southern areas, but they also use a northern battalion to encircle this part of Russia and move in from the Belarusian areas. We can see that the capital of Belarus, being Minsk, is encircled, and well, the Belarusians are just falling back a lot. Now, assuming that the world doesn't know what WICSO is, which they probably don't know, they're probably very confused on how just a random gray country just appeared out of nowhere. But anyways, we can see that Belarus is gonna die. So in the peace treaty, Belarus is fully annexed, and this is definitely looking very weird now. But from here, Russia can't really do much. It doesn't want to invade Ukraine because it actually has a pretty good plan for them, which is actually, what? It's actually to become allies with Ukraine. And from here, they will start the invasion of Russia. Now, this isn't actually too big of like a thing here, because I mean obviously Russia's a big thing, but like the thing is about Russia now is that there's really not many, like I said earlier, there's not many important parts of Russia now. I mean, you have the border right here, you have down south, like near China and Vladivostok, and you have the Caucasus, Crimea, and then this land right here, and maybe Karelia. What other than that, you're pretty much done. Now this kind of just looks like an expanded Belarus. Like it just looks like if Belarus just imploded and exploded into Russia. Don't take that out of context. Anyway, we can see that these two areas will be annexed as well as these two. And well, let's get on to the main war. Now, the Russians in this timeline are also going to get another ally in Finland. And that basically is just to take care of this whole area. These Russians are really going to be focused on cutting off the Caucasus and invading through that, while Finland can take these areas. And well, we see that happening in the start of the war, as a lot of these Karelian areas start to get invaded by Finland and, well, some troops of the WICSO Russians, which I think I'll just call them the WICSO Russians. So Crimea will also be taken, and we can see that parts of this area of Russia, this just tiny slither of Russia, will start to be taken, as well as just all across the Donbass border. And with this, we're just going to assume that the Russian-Ukrainian war never happened, or we can just travel back to 2021 or 2022. Early 2022 though. And we also see the WICSO Russians pushing in and capturing, well, Volgograd, which is, something the Germans weren't. Well, I mean, the Germans did do it, but they didn't keep it. But the Russians are able to push back, just like they always have been, and they push back in the southern areas. And even they start to push into these colder areas as winter starts to settle in, and the Russians from Siberia are being forced into these areas. They also make a pushback over here on the Finnish border. However, Finland is also a cold country, and they just completely annihilate everything here. So now Finland will actually be helping with the main front over here, which these Russians are increasingly pushing into. The thing is for Russia, though, is that these areas are not very committed to this whole thing. Like, basically, this isn't a big push in. I mean, it's a big push through the WICSO Russians, but it isn't that major due to the fact that not only does it capture only two major cities, but this is also just a very, like, this land doesn't have a bunch of value to it. So when this area is dropped out, the Finnish can help the WICSO Russians invade through here, and well, they do that, and they start taking a lot of land from the actual Russians, and start a spearhead towards this region of Russia. Over here in Ukraine, you can see them that they will take all of the Black Sea coast and then capture these areas, pushing through, and well, encircling all of Caucasia. From here we can see the WICSO Russians pushing back and taking a major city and cut these two areas in half. This area will fall, however this area will stay, and they actually do pretty good as they push back the Finnish over here and slightly push against the WICSO Russians. Over here, however, we can see Caucasia is not being defended at all as it's just being not prioritized, and eventually Caucasia will fall over to the Ukrainians, and they will push up into this area. From here, we can go ahead and see that, well, this is going to be fully taken back, and, well, now it's one big front against the Russians, which is not good as they take city after city. And with a lot of Russia, at least the main Russians areas captured, the regular Russians are going to go ahead and surrender. And let's take a look at the peace treaty uh, of Kiev. So in this peace treaty, we can see that Russia takes a lot of land. They take a lot of land over here in this specific area, and they take a lot of land in the north. Ukraine takes Crimea, and then a bunch of these areas next to them, as well as Caucasia. And then Finland expands, and Russia takes a little bit of land over here as well. Anyways, that's gonna do it for today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Once again, 800 before the end of August. See you guys tomorrow. Good, or not tomorrow. See you guys on Friday. Goodbye.